Joining us now with reaction, author of the best-selling book Treason, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. All right, Mr. Speaker, so how does Donald Trump now respond to the saber-rattling? Rouhani saying this is their red line in Iran, and Russia now actually going as far as to say that, and warning President Trump, if he hits Syria again, that we are one step away from war. What should the response be from the Trump administration?
Well, I think the response is pretty straightforward. If this happens again, we're going to hit them again. If you want to get in the way, then get in the way. But if you look at any correlation of forces in the area, the Russians can't possibly sustain their naval power and their air power in Syria and in the eastern Mediterranean against the United States. It would be an absurdity. And Putin would end up being humiliated. Now, he could then escalate above that. But, you know, we went through the entire Cold War with saber rattling, but not firing on each other. And I don't think they're going to fire on us now. Yeah. The fact is, we have crossed a line. The president crossed this line. We are not going to tolerate Assad continuing to use chemical weapons. If Assad doesn't use chemical weapons, my guess is everything will calm down. If he does use chemical weapons, I think we're going to hit him again. And if the Russians get in the way, they're just going to get hit as part of the process. As for the Iranians, they are listed every single year by the State Department as the leading sponsor of terrorism in the world. So what's new? They say death to America. They mean death to America. What are they, you know? At some point down the road, they may try to do something. But again, they would run a much bigger risk of massive American retaliation than their capacity to inflict harm on us. All
right, let me move then to a more unstable leader in the case of North Korea, and I mean really unstable as we've reported in the past, but that instability means he's unpredictable in some sense. So with America now showing some use of force, China now showing some involvement in the region, what do you suspect is going on there, and will the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is he going to do anything that we need to respond to?
Well, first of all, remember the last report. If we have a Trident submarine somewhere in the Western Pacific, that has probably at least 48 nuclear weapons on it. So the capacity to eliminate North Korea is pretty real. That would be horrible, and it's certainly not something we want to do or are going to do. But in terms of a real deterrent, that submarine is a much bigger deterrent than the aircraft carrier. What the aircraft carrier does is it signals visibly to all of our allies in the region who see it on TV. And it says, hey, the United States is here. We're not backing down. We're not going to desert you. But if you look at Seoul, 25 million people, all of them living within range of North Korean artillery, you really don't want to end up in a situation where Kim Jong-un goes crazy. I think the Chinese are going to apply pressure to him. We're going to apply pressure to him. I think, frankly, the best result in both North Korea and in Syria is to somehow get the military to replace the dictator. In both cases, you'd have a more stable and more rational government. But this is very, very risky stuff, because the world really is risky.
Well, the world is an evil place, and we have evil dictators, but it seems to be a Damascus, a Tehran, a Moscow problem, and then separate and apart, we have North Korea. All right, we were assured by John Kerry, then Secretary of State, we had assurances from the President, assurances from Susan Rice that there were no more chemical weapons, and that Barack Obama's red line in the sand made them get rid of all of them. It didn't happen. Here's what they said.
We were able to find a solution that actually removed the chemical weapons that were known from Syria in a way that the use of force would never have accomplished.
Russia has been constructive in helping to remove 100% of the declared chemical weapons from Syria. In fact, that was an agreement we made months ago, and it never faltered, even during these moments of conflict.
People may criticize us for not having launched missiles against Assad after chemical weapons had been used, but keep in mind why we didn't. We didn't because they got rid of the chemical weapons. And that, in fact, was very important.
No, they never got rid of the chemical weapons, and he never did anything about his red line. And Russia was supposed to be a part of that, correct, Mr. Speaker? And What if they're as wrong about Iran and the Iranian nuclear deal?
Well, let me start and distinguish the two. I think Secretary Tillerson did a great job the other day in saying, look, either the Russians were duped and are incompetent, or the Russians were complicit. Now, I love the conversation in Moscow where he asked them, you know, were you duped because you're incompetent, or in fact, were you complicit? There's not a third answer here. But the three people you described, you know, there's an essay that's on Google. People who are watching us can go and pull it up, by Nassim Taleb, who wrote The Black Swan. It's called Intellectual Yet Idiot. That portrait that you just painted, those three people, I have never seen a clearer statement of intellectuals yet idiots. These people had big words, they went to fancy schools, they supposedly knew a lot, they're very articulate. They are totally out of touch with reality, and you now have such vivid proof. Of course the Iranian deal's bad. These folks, none of these people are in any way in touch with the real world. They live in a fantasy world, and they're surrounded by a news media which protects them, and Hollywood stars who protect them, and people who make a living playing out fantasies on the screen, get with them and tell them how wonderful they are for their political fantasies, and then they go see fantasy professors who tell them how terrific their policies are. This stuff is all a perfect example of what Taleb meant when he wrote Intellectual Yet Idiot, which I recommend highly to our entire audience.
All right, stay there.